Well, thank you very much for doing this.
Thank you so much for having me here.
Oh, it's great to have you. And I wanted to just begin by asking, did you go to the movies a lot as a kid? And if you did, any favorites that stand out?
Yeah, I went to the movies all the time. I mean, to be honest, it was a treat to go to the movies, to see a movie in the movie theater. Usually we watched them on TV or VHS tapes many, many times. But yeah, I remember seeing Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom when I was a child. I was like, what is this thing? That's incredible. The first time I saw Wizard of Oz, that was on a VHS. And that was the very first time that I just knew I had to be involved. It looked like so much fun, and there's this magic that happens. Yeah, my whole childhood was about movies.
So when did you first try acting, even if it was just for fun, something silly, and then was there a moment when you knew that this was what you were going to do?
I didn't know I wanted to be an actor, or I was going to be an actor, until I had the vocabulary to describe what it was. So my grandmother was a big influence in my life, and I guess, I never really did well in school, like even as really, really young in kindergarten or first grade, because I had trouble like concentrating, or I just was very creative and I didn't necessarily want to do what the teacher said. I would like pick other things. And I didn't smile very much. And my grandmother, I think she must have sensed something in me that wasn't being expressed or allowed to be expressed. And so it started this barrage of exposure, where I remember one year for Christmas I got a tutu and a pink leotard, and I got ballet classes. And then another time, and she never used to do this, but she just must have had a feeling, she took me to the theater. And she said, I'm 7 years old, and she said, no, Jessica, this is their professional job. These people, they're trying to tell me this was a real thing. I didn't quite understand it, but we went in, and then the lights went down, and a spotlight came up on, I think it's like a 10-year-old girl, and immediately in my mind, I was like, oh, this is what I am. And it wasn't like, oh, I want to be this when I grow up. It was something that all of a sudden just became clear in my mind. So I didn't have to struggle and try to figure out what I was.
And so as time went by, and how did this develop to the point where you not only applied to but got into Juilliard, which is sort of the top of the mountain, right?
Yeah, it's strange because my family, we have no connection to the industry. No one was an actor. So when I'm 7 years old saying, I'm going to be an actor, I'm an actor, everyone's like, okay, I'm sure this phase will grow out. But they always supported me. And when going to public schools, whenever there are plays, it's usually the kids who get good grades. And I never really got good grades until I went to drama school. And so I was always like the one in the back wearing like a bunny suit, or like I was the carrot, or these things. And it wasn't until junior high that there was a drama club. So of course I feel like one of the characters from Glee, like I found my people, and that's when I felt more confident. And auditioning for Juilliard, I'd never been really, I'd been to Mexico, but my family hadn't traveled so much. I auditioned for Juilliard in San Francisco, and I auditioned because I'd done research about it. I knew it to be such an incredible training program, and I loved Shakespeare. But I knew someone who got in, who was going to go. And I thought, well, because I was acting with them, I thought, well, I think we're pretty, similar. So maybe if they can get in, maybe I can get in. And I went and auditioned, and I got in, and it completely changed my life.
So you go there, and I guess part A of this question is, what was the biggest sort of takeaway from that experience? I know that it's a massive question probably, but just the thing that, as you look back, was the biggest takeaway. And then part B, you come out, and you now face life as a professional actor, and I'm just curious, what was the ideal outlook at that point? What did you think your career would look like as you came out of Juilliard?
Okay, so part A of the question, when I arrived, I guess my biggest takeaway from the school is those 4 years, that BFA program, really shaped me into the person that I am. Everything about me as an actor changed. Everything about me as a person that loves art and ballet changed. Because even the first week I was having lunch in the cafeteria and Brishnikov was sitting at my table. Or, you get in the elevator and Yo-Yo Ma is there. At Juilliard, right like 2 blocks away is Lincoln Plaza Cinemas, and that's an amazing movie theater for foreign films and independent films. I had never seen a foreign film before I moved to New York, because we didn't even have one in our town. And that's where I saw the piano teacher, which that really blew my mind. So, those 4 years, it was just this really steep learning curve for me. And so I took so much away from it. I guess when I got out of school, I was shocked by the difficulty of finding my place in this industry. Because being in New York and doing a lot of theater, many of the wonderful actors that I respect would come and speak to the students, like Ray Fiennes came and Philip Seymour Hoffman came and spoke to us. Actors that I really loved for going back and forth between theater and film. But there isn't really an easy connection. And my family lives in California, so when I finished school, I was also going to Juilliard during 9/11, so I felt very cut off from my family. I came to LA, and it was a rude awakening. Where in New York, if you're a student at Juilliard, everyone knows what that school is. Everyone knows the kind of dedication and work that it expects from the students there. I remember the very first thing in LA that I did is they called me in to pre-read for an audition for like a day player on Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And I was like, wait a minute, I have to audition before I get the audition with the producers? It was like the most incredible shock. And also it was such a shock to be in a room with the most stunningly, incredibly beautiful women and not feel like I really belonged here in this industry. So it took me a while, but I had a great community of actors, and we all stood by each other and we rooted for each other, and I think that helped a lot.
And there was no sense that I only am interested in theater, or I only want to pursue film or TV. Like if you had been in New York, that's sort of the theater, TV capital, but you came back to LA, I imagine that meant that you were interested in pursuing film.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, now it wasn't all hard. I was very lucky before I graduated college. I got a holding deal with John Wells for his television company. And that was an incredible experience. It was the first time I was put in front of the camera. I did a guest spot on ER, that's how I got my SAG card. And it was incredible. And it basically said, okay, here's a little bit, and I can stretch money a long time. So that little bit of money I was able to stretch forever. But yeah, it really felt like I want to be an actor that's able to do, go back and forth from TV, film, theater, and for me it's all about the character. Right now I'm doing a play on Broadway because I love this character so much. But I would have done it if it was a film. I would have done it if it was a mini-series. I want to constantly challenge myself. And so I think it was that feeling of like, okay, I don't quite know how to make this jump because I don't know anyone. I don't even have a friend who's doing this. Michelle Williams, I met her because we did a play together, but also I'm not someone to say, hey, can you call up a casting director? It's just, it's hard. So I just kept, I would do impromptu play readings at my house and just really silly things that reminded myself every day that I was an actor.
And those first few years, I guess, sounds like from what I've read in your other interviews, you sort of needed that reminding because it was hard to get work that was fulfilling, or in some cases work at all, right? So what I gathered was that the turning point in a way was when somebody, I guess namely Al Pacino, really expressed the belief in you. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. While I was in LA, I probably tested for 8 television shows, audition, and that's the testing were the big success, but I never got one. I was in situations where I would get 30 pages of dialogue and show up, for pilot season, and stayed up all night memorizing them, and then someone, the producer looks at you and then decides you're not right, and they go, we just need the first scene. And you go, oh my gosh. I mean, it was like that for a long time. And then I got a call, because I had done a play off Broadway at Playwrights Horizons called Ronnie's Wife with David Strathairn. And I got a call that said, Al Pacino has requested that you audition for Salome. And it was really shocking, but I guess, Marta Keller, his friend, had seen me in this play and suggested me. And I went in and I auditioned for Al Pacino. And then I got told, I was told that, after a couple auditions, that they wanted me for this play, but they didn't know when it would happen. They imagined it would be like in August or something. And at the same time I was in New York that this was happening, I got another, it was like all of a sudden stuff started to percolate, but I got a test offer to test for a David Mamet television show, who I really love David Mamet. And it was this moment of, here's one opportunity to do a play with Al Pacino where I'm going to learn so much about acting. I'm not going to make any money or whatever, but it's going to feed me as an actor. Or instead I go, and who knows if I would have gotten the role, but I go test for a television show that I could be on for a long time, but working with David Mamet. And I decided to not test and to risk doing Salome. And it got moved a couple times, but then it finally happened, and it was well worth the gamble.
Because it really kind of led to the next stepping stones, right, from there.
Yeah.
What would be the, because, well, let me phrase this.
Yeah.
Obviously, and we were saying before, when it rains, sometimes it pours.
Yeah.
And for you, I know that it seemed like for everybody on the out, observing you, that last year, 2011 actually, it just all hit at once, it seemed. But for you, it was actually, and just to recount for people, Tree of Life, Coriolanus, The Help, Take Shelter, and The Debt, all within a year in theaters. Texas Killing Fields also. 6 movies that, and suddenly everybody who maybe months earlier had not even been aware of you you were on everybody's radar. And so I just wonder, though, my understanding is it's not like you had one year where you necessarily made all these things. They took a while to come together, right?
Yeah, so after Salome, we did the play, and it's something that really helps when you're a struggling actor in Los Angeles, is if you're playing the title role in Salome, in a play in LA with Al Pacino. Because so many agents, casting directors, other actors will come see it. And they can't help but go, okay, who's the unknown girl on stage writhing about as Salome? And that actually, all of a sudden, like, the kind of auditions I wanted to get, I was getting. I went from there immediately. We made the film version of it, which still has not come out, my very first film. And then I went and did a film called Jolene, based on an E.L. Doctorow novel. Then I couldn't get cast again for a very long time. It was about a year. I didn't work. And I got Tree of Life. And that was a tipping point also, because I was playing opposite Brad Pitt in Terrence Malick movie. But then also the people in the industry were going, sure, you're in this movie.
Show us.
Yeah. We know what happens in Terrence Malick movies. So you have to wait till the movie comes out before people really see you in it. And then I went from that to The Debt, and then my career started to really pick up.
And so the others came together later on, like Take Shelter, The Help, and
yeah. I mean, when I was doing The Debt, that's when things started to piece together. Like, Ray Fiennes called me about Coriolanus, and I went and I met with him at a cafe, and we talked about the role, and I said, listen, I would love to do it, and then he lost his financing, but I stayed, true to it, thinking that, oh well, he's gonna drop me because I mean nothing, none of my films have come out. Then also Take Shelter, I met with Jeff Nichols the year before we made the film, and I said, I love the script, I love Shotgun Stories, love Mike Shannon, I'm there. And so all of a sudden, there was one year where it was Coriolanus, Texas Killing Fields, Take Shelter, The Help, all within each other. Like I went straight from Take Shelter to The Help, and I had to gain all that weight. Because I'm very physically different in those two. But I'm glad I did, because I love those movies.
It was awesome. No. And I guess we should just note also, and this is not something that too many people can say, aside from getting a Oscar nomination yourself, to be the star of 2 Best Picture nominated movies really is not a common thing. Yeah, last year.
It's crazy. Yeah, it's crazy to think, okay, let's really look at this. Last year, I had almost 2 films in every festival. I had 6 films coming out in the movie theater. I had the #1 and #2 film in the box office with The Help and The Dead. I got nominated for an Oscar, like all these. I got nominated for Independent Spirit Award, Golden Globe. All these incredible things happened the first year that my movies finally came out, and it was like all the years of frustration. And then when I'm finally working, thinking that something's I'm cursed. The studio got sold, so right before it was released, it was held. Tree of Life, 3 years of editing. Salome still has not been released. All the things that were stacking up that I felt like, I'm never going to be marketable. No one will be able to cast me to help the movie. I'm always a liability. All of a sudden, it was like planes circling an airport, landing at once, and it was the perfect storm of wonderful.
It was pretty sweet.
Yeah.
So, in the time where there were where there was one issue or another, things were taking forever, what was at your lowest point, what would have been your outlook? Was there ever a consideration, maybe it's just not working out, let's do something else, or were you always pretty committed to doing this?
I was always going to be an actor. Like the year that I didn't get a job, do you know what I did? I played Desdemona in Othello, and we went to Vienna, and we went to Germany and New York. But I got to be hanging out with Philip Seymour Hoffman, watching him play Iago.
Yeah.
So it was always things, I'm an actor that's always trying to find, okay, who can I be around that I can learn from, And the toughest thing is when you feel like before that happened, before Salome happened, that was the toughest, when you felt like you were invisible, and no matter what, no one really saw you, or you were being put in the wrong places. I was being sent out on auditions of characters that I'm not right for, and I just felt it. I was like, there's the frustration of that, of working on things, and then feeling defeated the second you go into the room because someone looks at you and goes, it doesn't make you do your best work.
So the polar opposite of that, I guess, would be after this killer year.
Yeah.
I think everybody wanted to work with you, and you I imagine, had a lot of choices things to pick from, and you decided to work with Catherine Bigelow. And I just wonder, how did 0-30 first even cross your radar? What was the beginning?
Well, I was actually shooting Mama in Toronto, and I guess they'd made an inquiry for me, but I had a schedule conflict. I've never done, if you think this is crazy to think about, but none of my movies are studio movies. They've always been picked up from studios after the fact, but they've all been independently made. And even Mama, they've all been, it's crazy. And I was like, I want to see what this is like. Let's go do a studio movie. And I really loved the script, I loved everything about it. And I was completely booked. And so that's what Catherine was told, and so they kind of went away for a bit. And then they came back, and Megan Ellison, who I worked with on Lawless, sent me a text that said, if I ever ask you for anything, it's just to talk to me right now for 5 minutes, just 5 minutes. I said, well, that's a super dramatic text. So I called her back, and I happened to be in LA for the weekend for press or something. And she said, listen, there's this script, I can't tell you what it's about right now. It's to work with Catherine Bigelow. It's an exceptional role of a real woman, and it's history making this character. And I said, well, I love Catherine Bigelow. I knew it was about the hunt for Osama bin Laden. I said, listen, I love it. But I'm booked. If you can make the schedule work, I'll be there. I believe in signs, and I fell asleep on the couch watching Nat Geo, a little bit of a nerd. And when I woke up, I kept hearing, as I was waking up, I kept hearing the Song of Midnight. What is going on? And I opened my eyes, and it was like a show about the last days of the Song of Midnight. And I thought, well, we gotta make this work. And then Catherine Bigelow called me on my cell phone the next week, and she sent me the script. And on page 3 of the script, I was super excited about it because as an actress, it's very rare that you get to play a woman that isn't defined by the villain or the boyfriend, and to play a woman defined by her work. And I know it seems very shocking, like, well, where's her love life and where's her, you know, but I see movies all the time with men defined by their work, and to see that and to know that, okay, I get to play this, which is unlike anything I've ever played, I had to do it.
And I know for you, you said about part of the reason you took on Mama was because you needed to change your image was, and I think if you read profiles of you and things like that, some of the, I think it's mainly physical description would be, oh, fragile, delicate. You couldn't be these things with this character.
No. Well, the great thing about this character, and it says on the page, it's scary because you think, like, well, I don't know how much I can say, but whatever, I'm going to say it anyway. It, like, in her description, it's just, you know, very small, petite, young, almost like a girl, looks younger than she is. So the impression in the script was, at first glance, you would completely discredit her because of her voice. Everything about her was like, she's not able to do this. And I thought, well, as an actor, I love playing opposites. How incredible to be this strong, fierce woman in the CIA, but to play it almost like you're a girl. And those are those two conflicting things at once. I love that. I mean, same thing with, I love conflicts, and I always try to find them in every character. With Celia Foote in The Help, I mean, the part's written, she's a bombshell. She's like Marilyn Monroe, you know. But then I thought, okay, a really beautiful woman can't think the whole time, I'm a beautiful woman. So what's the opposite of that? Someone who's really insecure and really, you know, awkward. And can I put this bombshell mixed with awkwardness together? I love doing that.
Oh, that's great. So just for the record, Maya is this a...
It's not a composite.
Not a composite. And so, but because it's a real person, but it's a real person that we can't really know who it is for her own safety, right? How do you, aside from what is in the script, is there anything more that you can do to prepare to play it, or just really know the script?
Well, everything starts with the script. Every movie, every play, it's all the script. And there's a trick that I do. It sounds so simple, but it's shocking how much it gives you. If you go through the script and make 2 lists, one list is everything my character says about herself, and the other list is everything the other people say about my character. And you write those down, and when you look at it, immediately you feel like, well, that's a person that's separate from me. Because this is, you know, it's so many clues, like, I believe I was chosen to finish the job. That says so much about, this woman believes she was chosen. By who? By God? Like, that's a very big thing for someone to say. Or Washington says she's a killer. Or it's the child's crusade, referring to her as a child or too young. So that's incredibly helpful when preparing the character. Then I also had 3 months before we started shooting, which prep to me is the most important, where I met with Mark Bowl, who our screenwriter is an investigative journalist. And this script is based on first-hand accounts. So I know that that's my in, right there. And I went through everything. I went through every scene, asking, okay, Maya in this scene with these people, what exactly are their jobs? Who has seniority over her? I needed to know the status of each person. I needed to know, I needed to find out things. Maybe I could use it, maybe I couldn't. Maybe it'd be too dangerous to use. As much about her as I could, as much about the CIA as I could.
So you knew more than a lot more than you were able to include.
But I hope you can see some things in scenes where there's no dialogue.
Shake hands.
Yeah, like, we don't see, there's no line where Maya says, what if I'm wrong? What if I'm wrong about this? But hopefully there's a moment in there where you just see it.
Mm-hmm.
Because also in real life, you know, there was no evidence that the real Maya ever questioned herself in front of people.
This may be sometimes we overanalyze things, but I'm curious. There seems to me to be a lot of Catherine Bigelow in Maya. Now, obviously, Maya existed; it's her own person. But did you notice, in working with Catherine Bigelow, that there were parallels?
Yeah, but I didn't really notice it until I had distance from it. Because when you're playing a character, you just see it as like, this is me. You know what I mean? I own this. Right. And then when I walked away and when I saw the film, I can't help but compare the women. I mean, when you're on set with Catherine Bigelow, she's a fantastic filmmaker. And you never go, and she's a woman. You know, you just think she's incredible, strong, and she never talks about being a woman director. Because for her, that energy is better used when working. And she doesn't want to waste energy. Just like Maya doesn't have a scene in the movie where she talks about the glass ceiling in the CIA. Because there's many things where she could say, you're sexist, you're not taking me seriously. But then she's not saying, I'm looking for Bigelow. I need 3 texts in Rawalpindi. That's the more important information. And so I think these women they're 2 women that allow their expert work stand before them. And they're not defined by a man or by, you know, something else. They want to be known for their work.
Plus, you probably wouldn't want to mess with either of them. They're pretty
tough. No, pretty tough. Especially Maya.
Yeah.
Because Maya's just a little more like tightly strung.
So with Catherine and Mark, their dynamic on Hurt Locker and I guess on this is it's rare for a writer and director where the writer is also a producer who's so involved and I guess present all the time, right? Mm-hmm. And so first of all, where geographically were you guys throughout this, and what was it like? What kind of dynamic existed on the set between, you know, you're in almost every scene, they're present for everything, you know, did everybody, you know, kind of get along?
Yeah, I mean, we shot in Amman, Jordan, and then also the south of Jordan. We shot in Chandigarh, India, which is about a 3-hour drive from Pakistan. We shot some in England, which actually subbed really well for the CIA building. Yeah, so it was a really tough shoot. I mean, I knew it was going to be a really tough shoot. It's the most difficult thing I've ever done. Because my first introduction to it, and I had been in rehearsal before the Oscars, where I was in Jordan, and I flew back, went to the Oscars, got on a plane the next day, landed in Chandigarh, India, 25-hour flight. They handed me a cell phone, and I called in to set, and as a joke, I said, hey guys, I'm here, come on. Like, I'm up for it, when are you gonna use me? And they said, come to set. After a 25-hour flight, no hair, no makeup, put me in this, like, black robe with my face kind of like this. And Catherine said, okay, here's some money, go into this market, no one speaks English, and buy vegetables. And the camera's like hidden and trying to catch me, and I'm looking at people, and there's thousands of people, you know, in this market. And that was the day I realized this is some really intense filmmaking. I mean, every scene we shot, the emphasis was on the accuracy. Everything, like even what was on the desk. And I think some things aren't in the film because, well, that's not to show a close-up of that. You know, I mean, everything. We even shot a lot of, you know, difficult scenes in an active Jordanian prison because that's where those scenes would have taken place, you know? So it was very intense in the responsibility to get it right because we were playing real people and it's based on very important historical event.
The thing I have to ask you about, because I've heard you speak very kind of eloquently, and Catherine also about this, is the fact that while it's not a political movie,
yes,
it has sort of been politicized. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I think Catherine's main point has been that depiction, which seems so obvious that you shouldn't have to say it, is that depiction does not equal endorsement. If it did, then Elephant, the Gus Van Sant movie, we'd be saying, well, why are you encouraging kids to go shooting kids or other things like that? But has the controversy surprised you, and what is the answer to people who insist that there's still a problem?
The controversy has surprised me in that I feel like it's taken away from Catherine's intentions with the film. But, you know, when I look at movies like All the President's Men and Apocalypse Now and Coming Home and Battle of Algiers, it's good company to be in, a political film that holds the mirror to society. So for me, I expect it. I mean, I expect it now. I can see why it's happening. What I'm really encouraged about is it's creating a discussion in our society about what is right and what is wrong, and perhaps that will change government policy. Perhaps we'll look into it. And for me, when a form of art can do that, a painting, a song, a story, a film, because film to me is our modern day theater, you know, for the masses, I think that's really exciting.
And it's got to be heartening to see how many people are now seeing it's a hit. It's been not only well reviewed, but blockbuster basically, and certainly cover of Time magazine this week starting a discussion.
Exactly. Yeah, I read Catherine Bigelow's statement to the LA Times, and it's one of my favorite things I've ever read. I mean, I'm going to keep it with me always. And it goes to show, like, okay, not only is she an incredible filmmaker, the raid at the end of the movie, it's some of the best filmmaking I've ever seen. I mean, in real life, the raid door to door was 47 minutes. In our film, it's like around 36, which means basically the helicopter ride back and forth isn't really in it. But the seals moving slow, because in real life, seals move like they're moving through water. I mean, the way it's choreographed, it's so intense, and it bucks all the conventions that you would expect for an action scene. And to see this incredible woman make a piece of filmmaking like that, and then also write a statement like she did, she's just an incredible filmmaker, and I feel so proud to be in her film. Hope to be in more. I feel so happy that she's in this business.
My last question is this: I'm curious what it's like to be you in this moment, because I know probably it's so crazy that in a way maybe it's hard to just stop and think about it, but second year in a row you're an Oscar nominee for a Best Picture nominee. You are this month have been in the #1 and #2 movies at the box office at the same time. Not in it, the star of those two movies. And Al Pacino, who sort of helped start this off, I don't know if you've seen this, just told Roger Ebert this week, quote,
No, I haven't heard this.
You haven't heard this? All right, so here we go. Quote, I never saw in my career, in my entire time doing this, I never saw anyone in the business who's not a household name yet, but so sought after as her. And he goes on to say that, you know, it's the way it should be. And I guess, so the bottom line, what is it like being Jessica Chastain in January 2013?
I wish I could go back to Jessica Chastain in December 2003, you know, and say, it's okay, like, calm down, it's all right, you will be heard at some point. But also I do know the nature of this business, and I know that there's ebbs and flows. And as wonderful and exciting as all this is my dream come true. Because I feel like some people say I'm a workaholic, and I don't think that's what it is. I think I just love it so much. And for me, it doesn't feel like work, and this has been a dream of mine for so long, and it's taken longer than I had hoped it would, that when it finally has come to me, I've been so scared that it's going to go away. So there's this kind of like grasping at it and like working all the time, and something really beautiful has happened in the past 10 days where I'm starting to feel like, okay, I can breathe. It's okay. Like, you found a place, you know, no matter what, you will always be okay. It doesn't mean you're going to be #1, #2 film in the box office, but you found like a little wedge in this community, and you can just relax.
Oh, that's great. Thank you so much, and congratulations. And we didn't even mention the fact that you're also dominating Broadway right now, so I guess you can go on either coast, and we'll find you on top. So, but thank you. I really
Thank
appreciate
you
it.
so much.
Thanks so much.
This was fun.
That was terrific.